So thank you for coming. I am Connie Hewson. I call myself a playroom consultant and help families support their child's learning and creativity at home by creating organized play spaces and teaching them all about how kids play and ways to encourage more play and creativity. I was a teacher with the Toronto School Board for 2005 to 2019. I'm qualified for kindergarten to grade 6, and most of my time with the TDSB was actually in kindergarten, 7 years in kindergarten. And I also taught grade 3 for 3 years. So my area of expertise, I say, is from 3-year-olds to 9-year-olds. And kindergarten is a play-based program, which is how I got all of my experience about encouraging play and learning through play and applying them in my own home. I live in Toronto with my husband, Derek, and I've got my 2 girls, Clara and Amelia, that are now 9 and 6 years old. And I really use things that I learned as a kindergarten teacher and creating a play-based learning environment in the classroom and applying things to my own home with great success for lots of play and learning. And I'm really passionate about kids having lots of time for play, and got the idea to start this playroom business over a year ago. And I just launched the website in fall of 2019. So I'm coming up to 1 year with my business. And as a playroom consultant, I can get hired to work with you either virtually or in your home if you're in the Toronto area to set up your play space and help organize and that a bit today. But one of the main reasons that I wanted to start this business was just from noticing the difference in my first kindergarten students when I was teaching in 2005 to my last couple of years of teaching in 2018 and 2019, that it was really noticeable that kids seemed more tired, and not all of them, but some of my students would come to school looking very tired, would not be very relaxed during the school day, and have like typical signs of anxiety. And it's something that's reported on regularly, that anxiety is higher in kids these days than ever. And I believe that one of the solutions is making sure we protect our child's time and giving them lots of time to be kids and play at home and be with family. So this is my solution to that problem. And I really want to help parents understand that you're doing something amazing for your kids by giving them lots of time to play at home. And I think you believe your kids are at daycare or school and they're getting time to play there. But the reality is that it's a very structured day. The schedule is dictated by various things like rotating to other classes or nap time or snack time or lunch, and then moving to be with other teachers or time for gym. So I just want parents to know that it's a very busy day for the kids too. And one of the best things for them is to get to just come home at the end of the day, chill out, play with their toys, and that by giving them that opportunity, you're being amazing parents. Because I know from like talking with parents about like having parent teacher interviews and mentioning like your child seems quite tired during the day. And I wonder if there's too many activities going on, because I would have some students in Midtown Toronto that were going from hockey lessons one night, swimming, Mandarin class, skiing all weekend, like very full schedules. That does not allow time for kids to just be and relax and play at home. But then parents would say like, but so many other parents are doing all these things too, and you feel the pressure of thinking that's what's going to be most beneficial for your child. So I hope that after my little talk today, you feel confident that just giving your kids time and space and materials for play at home is going to be amazing for them as kids now and benefit them in the future too. So let's talk about the idea that play is learning. And it's not too hard to understand when you hear an example of what's happening in a kindergarten classroom. So we have our different learning areas with materials there to guide their play in ways that will encourage them to use math language or reading or writing skills. And the drama center or kitchen center is a common one where you'd have a group of 4 kids, and maybe we've set up the center as a restaurant for the day, and you can just clearly see when you stand back and watch that they're practicing conversation and asking questions to each other and listening to each other and all of those great social skills. And then we have pen and paper sitting in the center so that they're encouraged to practice some early writing skills, pick up the paper and pencil and ask, what would you like to order? And even at 4 years old, sometimes kids are just scribbling, but that is beginning writing skills. And then they're asked to like pay the bill, and they're using the cash register, which has numbers on it. And they're using numeracy from their play also. And we know that play is so important for stress management. At the end of the day, you're letting your kids decompress and work through everything they've learned that day. And you can notice if you overhear your child during their imaginary play, they might be acting out something that has happened at school or happened at home. How often do you hear words like straight out of your own mouth coming from your child, that they're now taking back that power and control by acting out, being in that position of control with their dolls? Or the child that goes to the doctor's office and had to get a needle and did not want one, but they go home and they're able to then play the role of doctor, and they get to give the needle to their doll. And that's just, it seems so literal, but it really is a way that they are processing things, understanding the world, and doing that for their own feeling of control. And then it's also the chance when kids can just learn who they are and what they're interested in. And experiencing boredom is so important for this, that they have to think of something they want to do and things they like to do. And by giving them these opportunities, they're helping to discover themselves and know what they like. And it can lead to hobbies that bring them joy in the future, and maybe even a career that they're really passionate about. So it's a very small window too, that our kids are this young and that they're able to play at home. So we can help protect this time and give them all these opportunities that are going to have long-lasting effects and benefit them for their whole life. So I really want to encourage people, especially when you end up having very busy lives, and it's not the case now during COVID. Everyone is at home much more than ever. But when there is some return to more programs, and just try to keep in mind that you're protecting your child's schedule and that they do have those opportunities just to play and be a kid at home. So when I started getting into this business of thinking, okay, I want to help parents understand how to encourage lots of play and learning at home, and realize that this creativity piece is actually super important too. And the more that I read into things, like I realized that this is considered an extremely important job skill now. Employers are looking for creativity in their employees now, and then it's going to be even more important in the future. Our kids are going to be doing jobs that don't even exist right now. They might be making up careers for themselves. And it's very much a valuable skill to have, being able to come up with new ideas. So it makes sense for a future career, but it also just makes life better when you're great at solving problems and coming up with great ideas too. So realizing that creativity is a skill, it can be built with more and more practice, and it can be learned for giving new opportunities and growing your ability to come up with new ideas. So this quote here, that creativity is important now in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status, is by Sir Ken Robinson. And he has one of the most watched TED Talks called "Do Schools Kill Creativity?" That was one of the first introductions I had to really reflect on the opportunities for creativity in my child's life. So while as a teacher, I know there's loads of great creative things happening in classrooms, but more in some classrooms than others. And also always within the confines of like the materials that are available, the time that is allowed, usually some type of curriculum goal that's within the assignment that's given. So really for our kids to have full opportunity to do their own thing, that home is the best place to be able to foster creativity and give them that time, space, and materials to really build their ideas. And kids are naturally creative. They use their imagination, which is our creativity at work. And if we just allow them to have time to keep generating those ideas and doing it more often, then it grows and grows and benefits them for life. Check out that TED Talk. It's 20 minutes long, and it's great food for thought, and it's humorous too. So I really recommend that TED Talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? So this is such a unique opportunity that you are here, you're interested in learning. Hopefully you have some time to yourself and you're not having to look after a child at the same time. That might be, but if you have the ability now to just reflect for a minute on what kind of childhood experience you want for your child. And this was an aha moment for me a few years ago when I was working full-time, coming home, getting the kids from school. They would get to relax and watch TV on the couch while I was cooking dinner. And then after dinner, it's getting ready for bed. And then we go to sleep and then we start the day all over. And I was really had a moment where I thought, this after school time is so busy, but it's also a chunk of our day and our time together. And how do I most want to use that time? Like, actually, I'd rather my kids were using that time to create and make art and play and read and write and talk to each other as a family. So my solution had been to cut out television from Monday to Thursday so that they were forced, that they came home, they didn't need to ask about watching a show because we had talked as a family about what the plan was. And then they had to choose something else to do. And it right away clearly became like time that my kids did drawing and coloring and reading and playing with their toys. And that's a couple hours a day that really add up to all this great time using their imagination and creating, and then just is adding to their childhood experience. So that's my biggest problem with screen time, is just all of the things that can't happen when your child is watching TV. So that's was something that I really reflected on. So can you use this opportunity right now? I'm going to give you 1 minute to try to think about the things that are really important to you. Like, what do you want your child's experience with your family to be? And what traditions do you want to have? Do you want to be a family that sings together or dances or plays games? Because when you're in the thick of parenting, it's so hard to stop and stand back and assess how things are going. And it's really like anything else in life that when you have intention and a plan, you can feel really good at the end of it all about how it went. So if you have pen and paper, even maybe you want to jot it down. So I'll share some of my ideas. It was really important to me that my kids got a chance to be outside a lot. I wanted us to sing songs and read books together. I wanted them to be reading and for enjoyment. And also it was, I loved lots of different sports as a kid. I wanted to make a point to introduce different sports to my kids. So take 30 seconds here to think about things you want to make sure your family does as a note for yourself, and to think about how you can plan for those things to happen. And if you have a partner, this would be a great topic to go over together at dinner tonight or this evening. Like, what do you imagine being amazing for us as a family to do regularly? And it's important to you that our kids are exposed to different arts, or do you want to share any of your hobbies with them? So that could be a nice conversation to have with your partner too. So let's talk about getting your child to play independently. It's very common, the story, like, how do I get my kid to play on their own? They always want me there. And it's like anything else, we want our kids to learn. It takes direct instruction and teaching them what's expected and how to do it, and lots of practice. So this is the rule of parenting, is lots of practice and making sure they understand the expectations and how to go about it. So we want our kids to be good at playing independently, because that's when they can really be in their own worlds and fully gaining the confidence, doing things that make them feel good and knowing what their interests are. So it's working great for them. And then it's also benefiting you, because it's a chance for you to be able to get something done. So this is definitely something we want our kids to be able to do. And there's lots of ways that you can actually set yourself up for success so that it goes better. So one of the most common fixes I find when talking to parents that have this issue is the location of where you want your kids to be playing. So some people have like a playroom in the basement and you want your kids to go down there and play, or go to their rooms and play while you're able to do work in the kitchen or in your office. And it's very much going to result in greater success if you choose an area that's close to you. So your kids usually want to be somewhere they can see you and feel like you're nearby, even if they're not interacting with you. So think of the main floor living room is always a place that I recommend during consultations to set up with some of the favorite toys, so that your kids have the materials that they enjoy right there. And then you're able to sit nearby and do your work while they're able to play. The basement play space is pretty common, and you just have to know that to get used to using it, you go down there together and you can set up your workspace in the basement maybe, or whatever it is that you're working on at the time. And I find the basement playroom gets great use, in particular when cousins are over. And now that my girls are 9 and 6 years old, they will go down there alone, but they even still like to play on our main floor space the most. And that's pictured here. The right circle is in our living room that we use the buffet that we had to store lots of favorite toys. There's a big bin of Duplo to the right that has had loads of play. Under the coffee table is a stack of favorite board games, and there's loads of play opportunities right there. And my other thoughts just on location is the bedroom I always recommend as being a place that's associated with sleep and quiet. So stuffed animals and maybe a desk for quiet writing, and of course books go really well in a bedroom, but I recommend not having lots of active play toys in there if you have space to be using more the living room or somewhere out of the bedroom. So now that you've picked a spot that is close by you, also can make sure that your child has gotten all the attention that they need and they're filled up and they feel like they've had your attention for the day before you ask them to now play on their own. So this was a real game changer for me when my daughter, I think, was about 3.5, and I did a great parenting course through our early years center called The Incredible Years. And the homework was like set aside 10 minutes a day where your child knows this is our playtime when I will give you my full attention. Set that timer and you let your child choose what you're going to do together and guide the play. And make sure your phone's not around or anything that's going to distract you, that you're fully engaged with your child. And then they know over time that they're going to get that every day. and that the timer will go off and it's time for them to play on their own. But it was a real game changer. So much of our children's misbehavior is coming from the interest of wanting our attention. So it works great for getting better behavior. And then make sure the expectations are very clear, that you've explained to them, we've had our playtime together. Now I'm going to sit down and I have emails that I need to reply to. You get to play. I will set the timer for 20 minutes. And then when it's done, I'm able to play with you again, or we're going to go for a walk together, or you just let your child know what they can be expecting. You might have to start with a very short amount of time initially to build up that ability to focus for longer amounts of time. And this is also kind of referring to 3 years old and up. So I don't remember when my kids were under 3 how we made it intentional for independent playtime, but you could certainly start. The trick is usually just a very short amount of time initially when they're younger. And then if you find that your child doesn't know how to choose what to do, especially in the beginning, if you're just starting this, it's not something they've really done before, then certainly offer them a few choices, remind them of things that they usually enjoy doing. Like the odd time, my 9-year-old and 6-year-old might need help picking something, but because they're so used to doing it on their own, it doesn't happen very often. But if it does, I'll say like, okay, well, are you in the mood for building? Why not use your Duplo and make a house for your LOL dolls? Or are you in the mood for art? You haven't used the oil pastels or stamps for a while. Or do the two of you want to play a card game together? And then sometimes they'll usually pick one of my options, or just by getting them thinking about their options, they'll come up with something on their own. So it's certainly worth helping them with some suggestions. And then they take your ideas and then they build on them. This is another way that we're fostering creativity. You can give them a few ideas and they might use that, or then they add their own spin to it and they've come up with something new. So this is definitely a great way to foster their creativity. And then finally, is your space set up in a way that encourages lots of play? And this is all about my job as a playroom consultant, helping families create these play spaces that are going to naturally encourage your child to play. So in general, the idea is that all the toys are sorted. Clear bins work great for being able to see the materials, and then we label them to make sure we know where everything gets put away later. And then closed bins, like the center picture, can have different materials in them. Maybe one bin's a dress up and another one's music instruments, and then a third one's wooden blocks. But everything is sorted and then always in the exact same place, so that your child knows exactly where to go to get the thing that they want when they have an idea for what they're playing with. And that's how it works in our kindergarten classroom too, is that everything always goes back into the same place. And you know what? Your child doesn't ever have to ask for things. They can reach it on their own. They can see it very clearly. Things that are in drawers or cupboards are not going to get used. That's very often the case with some art supplies. They're out of view and they're hidden, and they don't think to go and get those items. You certainly want the space uncluttered too. It's just like us. It's overwhelming to be in a space that has stuff everywhere and is hard to really notice what is what. You just kind of see an overwhelming pile. So you're thinking of keeping few things out on display. But the items that you do want to encourage your child to pick up are like a book they haven't looked at for a while. It can be as simple as standing it up on the coffee table on display like you would see in the public library, or having a couple like the cash register out on the shelf, or the doctor's kit is always in the same place. And you want them to try a puzzle, so you put their puzzle on a certain shelf. So these cube shelves that are pictured here are one of my favorite pieces of furniture to recommend, because there's so many great ways that you can have some storage as well as some space for display. With respect to learning centers, when I do my consultations, I'm always like assessing that you have types of materials for all sorts of play, which is usually all the subject areas you expect in school, like what is available for math-related play, science, geography, music, art, building, fine motor, all of these different categories. You want to have materials to meet, but you don't need loads of them. You don't need 10 building toys. You can have 2 building toys and the Duplo I mentioned, which is the giant Lego, is always my recommendation for a building toy because it's just very open-ended. It can be used so many ways. You can integrate it with imaginary play and small toys also. And it just has such a super long life because you can use it as early as 1.5. And then even my 9-year-old, she's getting more into the small Lego now, but very recently she was still using the Duplo, and she will actually go back to it now for like building a desk for her Barbie. The other day she decided to use the Duplo. So that the cross materials is such a creative use of her toys too. And then with this, the other bonus of this organized space where everything has a home is that cleanup is super easy. It's easy for your child, and it takes a lot of modeling by you to show how to clean up so that they learn from watching you do it. But it's also fast and easy for you because every single thing you pick up, you know has a home and where to put it, and you're not using any brain power to put it all back in place. Here's a couple examples of how you have art materials organized. The box on the left has like all of the basics ready to go, and I had that on my kitchen island when we initially cut out the television, and it was so obvious that just week after week, their artwork got more elaborate and more creative, and they're talking to me while they're drawing and I'm preparing dinner. So that was a real power move at my place. And then the art cart on the right, we now have in by our kitchen, and then a bunch of basic art supplies are there. They're all easy for the child to see and reach. So I highly recommend having your art materials available one of those ways. And then I just had a few examples of before and afters, but you can see like if the more calm and uncluttered, that it's a nicer space for everybody to be in. And even in the small condo on the left, there are loads of play opportunities available between the kitchen and the table and chairs and the bins and shelving that has space for display. And there's loads of more on my website. So this has gone super fast, and I hope you got some ideas from it. Please follow me on Instagram, Connie_Hewson, with lots of different tips for supporting your child's learning and creativity, different books I recommend. If you scroll through, there's lots of other posts on similar topic to things we talked about today, and some favorite furniture. And you can send me a DM through there as an easy way to get in touch if you have any other questions or would like to know more about my in-home services. I do the virtual consultations anywhere, and then in-home in the Toronto area. And then every month or so, I offer a webinar that's kind of an expanded version of this to help you set up your own playroom. You can send me a DM to sign up for notification of the next one, and check out my website for more details too at conniehewson.com. I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see if I can see if there's any questions or discussion. Okay, I don't see anything here. So if you do have anything to ask, please get in touch through Instagram or through my website. And I hope you got something valuable out of today. Thanks so much for coming. Happy playing and creating at your house.